Thank you for joining us for this session. We have a session on transformation of Indian gaming industry. It will be moderated by Mr. Varun Sharma, co-founder Metaphy Labs. May I request Mr. Varun Sharma to be on the stage, please? I will also request Mr. Varun Sharma to introduce his co-panelists.
So hey guys, we have a very exciting discussion over here focused on transformation of Indian gaming ecosystem, especially for the next few decades to come. So as Madhurima introduced, I'm the co-founder at a company called Metaphy Labs. We deal with immersive experiences and new age R&D. So we have a very exciting set of panelists over here from each and every vertical of any industry transformation. We have somebody from media side, we have somebody from the tech side, from the data side, we have somebody from core gaming and marketing side, and then we have somebody from a development side as well. So I'm happy to introduce our panelists, and I would request you to come on the stage while I say your name. So to start with, we have Mr. Devroop Bhattacharya. So I would request you to come here. And so he is the director at PwC. He leads the data and analytics part at PwC India. Then we have Mr. Uttam Pal Singh. Can you please come here? So he leads the Kids Network, Warner Bros. Network, and he leads all of these subsidiaries, if you think about it, the POGO and the Discovery and all of these channels. So I love to have you on the stage. Then we have Mr. Sumit. Please, can you come on the stage? So he's the co-founder and executive director at Gamestack. And then we have Mr. Kashyap Singh, who's the studio head at Psypher Interactive. And finally, we have Mr. Ashwin, who's the founder at LOCO. So I think if everybody has taken this seat, we can get started. And I see a lot of exciting faces over here. And so to start it off, I think Mr. Devroop has been kind enough to bring about a presentation to kind of focus on what the transformation journey has been up till now and what PwC as a company has in mind to take it ahead. So I'll gladly pass the mic to Mr. Devroop, and please go ahead.
So as a part of this particular session, we'll be covering the evaluation of the gaming industry in India, and Varun is the moderator here and he will drive this session. But the intention of this presentation is just to set the context where we are currently, so that from there the esteemed panelist and Varun and along with us, we can take it forward. Like it's more like a prediction where we are going to go. So it's a busy slide, but probably a couple of things I like to point out that this journey that India and the gaming industry, how we have all started. It all started with a penetration of the mobile phones, because in India, if we see, as of today as well, when we are having a 500 million gamers across the different corners of this country, but majority of them are the casual gamers who are playing this through their mobiles. So that journey still continues. And then it further strengthened based on the introduction of the mobile internet. I think Sean was also mentioning while he's mentioning the introductory speech that mobile internet has played a crucial role in, at least in this particular corner of the world, and this has played one of the pivotal role to ensure the penetration of gaming in this land. The third thing that play a crucial role, and in fact again I like to highlight one of the events, is that cricket is a religion here. So here also the penetration of the game starts, I mean in large way, it is through the cricket games, cricket as a game. And then I think we have also introduced to the console based gaming. Nintendo has started back in 2017. Government started recognition of the esports. There's a big event and came around the 2018. And then it's a kind of a continuous journey. Government has introduced the Digital Act and all these things continuously. They are trying to save this particular industry as a whole. Then again, kind of a royal battle game like a PUBG, that's again a kind of a one of the thread that united the entire nations, we generally say. And this also kind of this sort of games increase the popularity of a gaming, a mobile-based gaming, casual gaming in this context. And it's a journey, and we now have probably a kind of a slight improved penetration of the console-based gaming, Xbox, PS5, those are here. And government has also declared a couple of initiatives focusing and shaping the, to regularize this industry as a whole. Now, few of the things are good for the industry, few of the things are may not be good in immediate future, but let's see how this industry reacts towards that. Monetization is one of the important parameter. I mean, this is not for the gaming industry, but for any industry in mind. Okay, those days are gone from the bygone era where people pay money to and upfront and buy the games. It's more like now is people are going for the subscriptions. Advertisement play a big role while we are earning money from the games. There are options like a loot box. There are options like a freemium, paymium kind of games. That is the way the gaming companies are making the money. But again, the per capita revenue, till now we are way behind the global standard as of today as well. But the good part is this, that it's a 140 crore people's nation. So it's a one small step or one small increase is really a kind of a giant leap for the industry as a whole. And people nowadays are coming up with some interesting options like, in fact, we will be probably touching up few of them as a part of the discussion as well. That started from the kind of a season pass is one of the options. There are merchandising, physical merchandising, those are the options alongside the advertisements, and probably to make these particular advertisement more personal to the individual players. And that is now possible with I would say kind of advent of technologies in terms of the procedural content generation, and so we can make game personal. Few numbers again, few from the PwC's own research and few from the research that is done by the other firms, but PwC has also their say on that. An Indian market is a very kind of a interesting market where we can see there is a constant growth from the gaming revenue perspective. People are, and also in terms of the penetration, and we are making roughly around 20% CAGR this industry is moving. And this is not only in the metro area or the tier 1 cities, there is a strong kind of a, I would say, presence from the tier 2 cities as well. And in Indian context, one of the interesting parameters is this, there is a significant contribution from the 45 plus middle-aged populations who are also into gaming. It's not the teens play at all. Senior folks are also playing the games, and that's the reason probably one of the indigenous gaming like Tin Patti, Ludo, those also are kind of getting popularities. And from gender perspective, it's a kind of a still, I would say, it's a 1/3, 2/3 kind of distribution, but it is gradually changing over time. And there are significant number of, and it's more and more that indigenous companies are also coming into this gaming, which was not a picture probably I'd say 5-6 years back. Now peoples are coming into the gaming, the people's willing to build their career in gaming, and there are startups, there are companies who are focusing gaming significantly. So there are certain policy changes I probably will touch base as a part of the discussions, but few of the things government has done till now, one of these regularizing the sports, and that is esports primarily, and India is also participating in the Olympics. There is a kind of a legitimate source of the funds and also are coming here. So these are the good part of it. Government also trying to regularize this industry through the Digital Gaming Act. It's a kind of a proposal that was shared, and also we know that there are some good news, some bad news for this industry as a whole, and we definitely like to see through the feedback from this esteemed panel how the industry is reacting or responding towards those regulations. Technical change, as I mentioned, and this is in fact, gaming is a high-tech industry, to be precise. To play it, you at least need a mobile, you at least need a dependable network, and then if you are an avid gamer, if you are a professional gamer, you need the devices, dedicated devices, be it a laptop, be it a console, and then how you can probably get more into it, to get more into the gaming and the different kinds of AR, VR. These are playing a kind of a significant impact in this industry, how you play. I mean, it's not something, those days are gone, people play by sitting on a chair. It's now can capture the way you are probably taking a penalty shootout, what are your muscles, this can be captured in nowadays world as well. And so this is, it means that you are now you are generating thousands, millions of data points. And these data points are available to the gaming company. And how these data points can be leveraged for insight generation, how better that data points can be monetized, keeping all those regulations, GDPR, CCPA, all these things in mind. That's something is one of the area probably will be interested to understand. And at the end, it's an ecosystem. It's not only the gaming companies can make our things grow, it's an ecosystem where the brands, where the different subscribers, publishing houses, distributors, hardware companies, government, all needs to play a role and hand in hand to ensure this industry flourishes. We all are focusing towards that future in recent times. With this, I'm closing this particular presentation and we'll be going back to the panel. And thanks for your time.
Thanks, Devroop. I think that was really insightful for, I think, most of the people here. So I'll be driving the narrative of the whole conversation, which is focused around, transformation of the whole gaming industry for India at least, and how do we go from consumers of the world to the producers of the world. And I think India has seen a significant growth when it comes to, providing, when it comes to innovation, when it comes to doing new things. Like the simple example being from, carrying the top of a rocket on the back of a cycle to being the first country to actually, land on the South Pole. I think India definitely, it's time for India to actually become those leaders in the world. And that's where it's headed at. And interestingly enough, we have, experts from every angle and every vertical of, of the journey, what it takes to actually, transform an industry, what it takes to actually lead an industry. So I'll quickly pass the baton to the panelists for them to introduce themselves, what they do, and what are their thoughts on, how the journey for India has been until now and where they see that it would lead to. So on to you, I think.
Thanks, Varun. And again, I would like to good afternoon, everybody here. I myself am a director in PriceWaterHouseCoopers with a background on data and analytics. My focus area is an interest area as well. It's gaming analytics. I probably have touched base few of the points as a part of the presentation as well. Because gaming is an industry, it's in its early days now, but it has immense potential. And it's not something like a child's play. It has potential in every aspects of life. I can share a very short note here. I was attending the same session as a moderator in Bengaluru, arranged by IDGS. And they are one of the panelists who are from an NID professor, Professor Vibhu Datta. So we are discussing on few of the topics, and one of the interesting topic is this. We all probably heard of the music therapy. But one of the points that was raised during the discussion that gaming also has one of the kind of a potential in advanced treatments. I mean, people think of the people who are recovering from the motor neuron disease, people who are into great depression, or people who are coming from the coma and then they are into their recovery process. Gaming can play a crucial role in communicating with such patients. So it has potential. Probably we have not explored, at least in Indian subcontinent, we have not explored everything, but this particular industry has a potential for changing, and backed by the recent advancement that we have in the technology domain, uh, it can completely change the way we think the gaming is, from personalization standpoint, recommendation standpoint, monetization standpoint, application standpoint. So gaming itself can build a strong ecosystem, and which is a more, I would say, effective way of communication. Is more than just audio visual. Here you are also interacting actively, you are involved. So this has a very strong medium of communication with the subscriber base. Being said so, I am handing it over to Uttam to take his part.
Thanks, Dev. Hi, my name is Uttam Pal Singh, and I work with Warner Bros. Discovery. Warner Bros. Discovery is a global media giant which has interest, in content creation, in streaming, in broadcast, in theme parks. And why is it relevant, in India, is because we have one of the most strongest portfolio for the kids brands in India, namely Cartoon Network, POGO, and Discovery Kids. Cartoon Network, was well established, one of the first kids-focused cable company launched in 1995. And I think since then it has been among, platform which has brought in international content, also popularizing a lot of IPs globally. Currently, it's also at the forefront of launching a lot of anime shows. Dragon Ball Super, My Hero Academia is going to get launched very soon. But more importantly, Warner Bros. Discovery has done wonderful things is to invest heavily in local content and local IPs. And for that, we created a platform of its own, which is POGO and Discovery Kids. And one of the key things, which we did was invest in Chota Bheem and Little Singham. And most of you guys, I don't know, young guys would have grown up watching it. I'll be glad to share some notes later. But that's what, I think is our pride. And also one of the key bets which we played has done phenomenally well for us is creating local characters, IPs, which resonate with the kids, tell the stories which they would like to hear, and keep building an engagement around it. And that's a success which we've built across many years. The beauty of creating those characters, or I would say influencers in the kids universe, is that leveraging the power of IP and the characters, we were able to build the gaming ecosystem, especially on Little Singham. Just to give you an example, we worked very closely with Reliance Games, which was earlier called Zapac, to work while the show was being launched. We worked very closely with them to have a launch of the game also followed in the next 1 or 2 months. So that the kids, while they connect with the characters, they love it. They're able to also play and engage with the character on the gaming platforms. So Little Singham Runners Game, Little Singham Cycle Race, cricket version, were launched successively. And till date, they have about 75 million plus downloads, in the lifetime. Currently, they have about 40 minutes of time spent, from any user, which is quite significant, in terms of the game focus on the kids. And then on top of it, we were able to add layers of monetization, provide brand solutions to big brands like Hershey's, who wanted to connect with kids, introduce their new brand called Jolly Ranchers. And then we had adapted the same thing on the gaming platform, on broadcast, to create an entire 360-degree experience for the kids. Again, this is a living game for us. It's not just sort of one-time use. We keep adapting it. We keep keep doing events around the same gaming platform. 15th August is a very wonderful when you will have a version on the entire patriotic theme. And we've also used it, to send out social messages. The game, we tied up with United Nations Environment Program. And then Little Singham is collecting, plastic bottles while he's playing the game. So the kids are interacting with the character and sending a message, about environment safety and plastic pollutions. So that's the power, which we keep on using, we keep on building. And that's why, these things are very relevant for us. And that's why I think, I'm here. And happy to be here. Thank you, CII and IDGS for having me on the platform.
Thank you for that. I think we'll move on to Sumit, who's the founder at Gamestack. Yeah, please go on.
Sure. Hi, I'm Sumit. I'm the co-founder of Gamestack. We are a gaming marketing company. We started with a vision of solving for commercialization and monetization of the gaming economy. We work across the areas of game tech, influencer and creator tech, as well as media and content IPs. Largely, what we stand for is that we invest into bringing new technologies and innovations in monetization and commercialization of the great content that developers and creators are building out, right? Our core mission, if I were to say, is to build a sustainable gaming marketing business from India for world, right? So that's what we stand for, and there are many things to talk about our business, but largely I would rather pass the mic to the other gentlemen for their introduction. Yeah.
Hello. Hi, I'm Kashyap. I had Psypher Interactive, and I just wanted to keep it very simple and short. What we do in Psypher Interactive is we make games, and we make all kind of games, and that's all. And I want everybody to remember that we make games. Whenever games comes to your mind, please remember us.
Right. I don't know how I'm going to follow that one. It's going to be longer. I apologize. My name is Ashwin Suresh. I'm the founder of LOCO. LOCO is India's leading game streaming platform. We do not make games. We are not a game development company. However, we are almost the home of Indian gaming from the point of view that we are where the community spends most of its time. As a result of being a streaming platform, most content creators in the gaming ecosystem, most gamers stream themselves playing games on LOCO. We also host a lot of tournaments. We're one of possibly the largest investor into third-party tournaments over the last 3 years in India. And we host a lot of content adjacent to gaming. That could be fiction, non-fiction content of the sort. Look, globally, gaming is the largest part of the entertainment pie. If you look at the US market, if you take television, the size of the television business and the film business, and you combine it, you multiply it by 2, you still don't get to the size of the gaming business. We believe India is going to get to that point very soon. There are already 400 plus million gamers. The sheer revenue that gamers generate for game publishers in India purely through in-app transactions is already larger than the revenue generated by OTT platforms and streaming platforms. This is a movement that's extremely secular. We think it's reached a critical mass and has enough momentum to get to a point where gaming is going to be by far the largest entertainment category. At LOCO, our goal is to kind of participate at the center of that. We work with advertisers to provide them reach on our platform. We work with content creators to give them a place to grow their fan base and their audience. We work with the viewers to give them a very enjoyable, seamless experience to consume the content. We work with tournament organizers to give them a platform to provide reach for their tournaments. We work with the policymakers here to ensure that our platform practices responsible gaming, and we educate through the power of that medium. So we work with literally everybody. Of course, we work with game publishers because we're like the one place where they can market their titles and they can build community for their games. So we're kind of at the center of it all. And I have a lot more to say, but I'll spare you for now and we'll get to questions.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I think I'm a bit overwhelmed by the things which you guys have been doing. So to put a certain line to where we are heading with our discussion. So basically, for us to see India as we said, not the consumers but also as the producers, right? So it needs the acceptance of our culture, even outside our scale, to actually put our our localized items onto a global scale. And from again each of these gentlemen which are here, and from each of the domain which they come from a place where like this gentleman, he understands data, he understands behavior, while Mr. Uttam, he's he understands IPs, and how he just talked about like Chota being one of the most popular IPs which were generated for India and in India. But how do we actually think about, taking these localized items onto a global scale? How do we actually diminish this cultural or the, linguistic kind of differences which we have? How do we, take something which is of reference for India for a global scale, and how do we actually, turn India into a, an exporter of not just the game items, but also the IPs which are being generated by that. So just to start it off, I think, especially for you, Devroop, this simple question which I have is, I think you're somebody who's very well versed with data, who has worked with a lot of data in their life, right? So of course, while we think about the consumer of the consumer behavior, or the, the behavioral elements which are there for somebody who's a direct market for you, like again for somebody for whom, some particular thing is culturally significant, and then, there are a kind of behavior elements for people who are outside of the market, or for them in that particular thing is not culturally significant or too significant for them. So just to, kind of get your understanding on then, like how does it usually, vary in both of these cases for a direct and an indirect market?
It's a pertinent question, and especially if I think India is a home for diverse cultures. See, in the south, there is a separate set of culture. Go to the northeast, different culture. Here in northern part of the country, the cultures are different. Go to the east, it's a different culture altogether from Kolkata, where I come here. So it also matters. I mean, gaming is already has a penetrated, almost a 500 million gamers are there in India. But how we can reach all the communities, and in order to do that, we probably need to touch the right chord. And when I say right chord, it means we can touch that ethos cultures of the India. We have a country with a vast cultural history, and how we can probably incorporate that into the, while we are personalizing the gaming. And I'm very focused to the choice of this word personalization, because it's a country like India, unless you're able to personalize it, it's my game, irrespective of the company, whoever has generated that, built that particular game. If the player can find it, no, it's my game. And then only it's a completely picture will start changing very fast. And it is also beneficial for the companies as well, so that you can also monetize from it. Started from, I would say, if I can arrange an event, maybe during Pongal, or maybe during Durga Puja. So how I can touch the local sentiments, regional sentiments, it matters a lot. How I can dress my characters, depending on the individuals from where they are playing. How I can incorporate the culture of that region into the gaming. How I can understand my subscriber or the player, what he likes. Yes, we probably have not all the data points, even in today's world, but we at least know the gender, we at least know the age group. And with the advent of like a technologies like a VR, AR, you are really getting lots of data. Yes, I know that there are CCPS in place, GDPRs in place. You probably cannot use and monetize all the data points. But keeping that boundary, policy boundary, there are sufficient number of data points available that you still can play around with to generate the insights about your subscribers. And you can use this data in a different way, like what to advertisement I should give this to this gentleman so that at least he clicks on it. Instead of just passing any and every advertisement where the hit ratio is much lower. How we can make the ad more non-invasive, so that it will not hamper the gaming. Before, if I come to the panel, I was discussing with one of the from the audience who is also into this particular field. So there are some interesting ideas we are working. It's not something these ideas are coming straight from the outside this land. We, in this India only, we are working around it. So how probably together we can build this particular concept where we are ensure that we keep the local sentiments, local culture, ethos, users' behavior in mind to make this gaming experience a more sustainable to the every subscribers. And this will also help us to onboard new or rather penetrate into the new market. So there are three parts. One is onboarding, second is the engaging, and third is to sustaining or retaining the subscribers. In all these three ways, you probably can, we probably can make it happen if we make the game personal again to address the need, demand of the individual commodities. With the data point, this is possible. Yes, there are some technical challenges probably, like third-party games, how can I customize and all these things. But I'm sure with the possibilities that we have today, like a procedural content generation, you don't need to build scene by scene. It is possible as of today as well. You just give the script and then computer automatically will generate the screen. You can even non-playing characters can communicate to the gamers depending not on the based of following a script, but following what the subscriber or player is saying. It automatically can change those scripts as well. So this is happening. This is not something technology from future. As on today, these technologies are available, but probably we need to focus how better we can use those technologies, use the available data points to make the game personal. That's from my side.
Thanks for that. I think moving on, so there's this one particular question which I have, especially because I think, Warner Bros. Has the most powerful IP, which is built out of India, which is, again, as I said, as you mentioned, as Chota Bheem and Little Singha. So for us to actually, take these local superheroes and put it to a global scale where, in future maybe, young kids in America are wearing the Chota Bheem backpack. Yeah. Possibly, if that happens.
Why not?
But to a sense where we take these local IPs to a global scale and actually India becomes the shape of IP provider.
So I have a different perspective here. I feel we don't need to force this on the West. They've probably forced things on us. We don't need to do that. What we need to do is we're on a journey to still popularize our characters and our IPs for our own audiences. And if it goes into them and they love it for what the characters stand for, it's in their DNA, they become natural brand ambassadors for the IPs. So when the now Indian diaspora is traveling across the globe, they naturally take those stories and characters with them. And that's sort of a path which is easier for us. So to give you an example, while Chota Bheem originated and launched on POGO in 2005, if I'm not wrong, and then it has led to great success within India for the Indian kids, and it created an entire ecosystem of licensing, merchandising, gaming around the character. But very recently, Netflix came on board and, green-lighted another called Mighty Little Bheem, which is a version of Chota Bheem. And that has become super popular. It is, in fact, one of the most popular preschool characters, much more popular than Boss Babies as per even Netflix's data. So, I'm saying our diaspora is traveling. If they take the stories and the pride with them, that's a natural pathways which we create. What we need to do is be unique in our own storytelling. Taking example from anime in Japan. I don't think when it started, they ever wanted to popularize it for the globe. I think this was something which they created as part of their culture and they love it, right from a young kid to an old person. They are connected with those stories and the characters. And through that, now the entire globe, globally, these are really popular IPs. So that's what we need to do, have that pride and keep building the ecosystem. And, with this, I mean, as you're projecting, our Prime Minister is projecting, that we will be the third largest economy very soon, so all these things will travel very soon out of here. So all the best to all of us.
So I mean that's really interesting which you put forward. Where I mean, I think let these IPs do their work rather than forcing it out to the West. I think that's a very valid point to put it forward. So moving on to Sumit, I think he's involved in a space which is very interesting and which is something which is kind of unexplored. Where I think mostly, he's into a space where he's focusing, or this company is focusing on a concept called, like gaming marketing, which is not necessarily right now seen as a mainstream method of marketing for any brand or any company which is forcing onto it. So just to, I mean, maybe also get a context of, like what you guys are thinking about when it comes to, bringing gaming marketing as a mainstream vertical for brands to always have, something on their mind that this is a part of a strategy when we think about marketing. That's just one point to the question. And the second point is, I think something which has been consistent with this conversation is that, not just, in this particular small circle, what are your thoughts on, on a bigger circle, what does, gaming marketing has on a global level as well?
Right. I think I'll straight away go to the context setting over here. Let's look at the India perspective and then global perspective. Now, India perspective, of course, we as business see that there is a large enough opportunity for brands to come and participate in a vibrant ecosystem, right? Which is youth, which is playing games. And we believe that it's not just youth, it is gamers are everyone, right? And there is a wider enough scope for each and every brand out there to invest into games, right? As per many data points that we have studied, there are even in esports. So we only see only few 50 or 100 brands at max. So last estimate that we saw, there were only 100 brands that invested into esports, right? While gaming is a very large and wide scope, right? In different ways, brands participate into that ecosystem. We want to democratize it, which is a very broad way to say it. How are we doing it? We are solving it through tech, of course. Our tech is enabled in various games, starting from your hyper casual to casual and going on to mid-core as well, right? Enabling player-first experiences, that's one of the core areas that we've always focused upon, right? Because gamers eventually don't want to see ads. They want to experience the content that they are consuming, right? Then we look at, okay, what is the biggest challenge right now brands face? Now you have all the line items when you look at the media buying ecosystem today. Globally, that is the biggest challenge. That gaming doesn't happen to be a line item when media buying is happening, right? It is only for the endemic brands. That's where typically the investment happens for gaming, whether the brand takes the onus on themselves investing into a separate gaming as a channel within their ecosystem, or a gaming brand themselves that they are making, right? Or a gaming IP. And hence the requirement for commercialization and monetization for creators comes into the play, right? So that's one angle to our business, which is where the game developers and game publishers essentially gets benefited. And a lot of data analytics goes into that, of course, that which ads needs to be personalized to which player, of course, right? So that's in the making. On the second aspect where we operate is around the game, right? One is inside the game, then is around the game. It is again a broader aspect. When we look at around the game, there is an immense amount of content consumption, creation that is happening around the games, right? Large competitive titles like BGMI or any other game that you can think of, right? Which are being watched by audiences at large in different ways and forms. How do you monetize those creative streams, right? Sponsorship is the only model that exists today. How can you make it as large for micro creators, nano creators? That's what we are solving via tech. Again, how do you monetize your live stream feeds? That's where we go. And again, personalization is one critical aspect to it. this is not limited to India. Of course, this can be exported very well. If we can solve for India, which is a large enough economy, it can be solved for other countries as well, right? That's where we're going to ship our products eventually, right? And that's our core focus. However, there are media and content IPs for brands that we also invest into, which are largely India focused, essentially. So these are the three core pillars to our business and how we are looking at it, how we can shape the future, not only for Indian ecosystem, which is, again, as I said, 500 million gaming audiences, 80 million creators doing different stuff. Of course, not only gaming, of course. There are many other things that they do. But how can we solve a larger ecosystem from our tech perspective or service perspective is what we are building upon.
Again, I think that's interesting. I think what you just mentioned that kind of fills the void of exactly as you said, how even a small portion is being monetized as of now. A small portion is just being, even in terms of commercialization, it's hardly begun to actually get into that space. But as this space is kind of moving forward with even a lot of support coming from even external players and even from other sides, I think it definitely is a very hopeful market to just put our chips in. And I think I'll move to Kashyap, who was very humble with his introduction. But I think since you were leading, like an independent game studio, right, which includes multiple games in cases where some are hyper casual and a lot of them are very driven by, not just innovation but also community, right? Where it's community focused games which are put forward. So in this case, of course, there are some games which are built directly for a certain community. And then since we are already on the topic of, localization and exports and all of that stuff. So one thing which I wanted to understand from your point, especially that you are into the indie gaming space, that for these particular community focused games, do you usually keep a scope for, even putting it out for, outside of this particular community or outside of this particular culture? And considering that, the biggest kind of, entry barrier is, again, not being very much aware of, this particular culture, why it's based for, who this is based for. But while you build this, do you actually think about the scope for, maybe we'll build for this community, but we'll scale for the communities outside as well? And if that is the case, what's your usual, strategy and idea behind this?
Yeah, so I'll divide this question into two parts. One is how we make the game in the first point, the idea behind the game, and the second part will be localization, because if you're talking about going beyond a certain community or going international. So first, the idea part is something that an indie developer, what I believe is they come up with an idea, an experiment, and we work on that experiment, and then we supply that experiment to a limited group of people that we get feedback from, and also we showcase our games to the events like this so that we can get industry feedback and also user feedback and also feedbacks from different developers. There are positive feedbacks, there are negative feedbacks, and we take home the positive feedbacks and also work on these negative feedbacks if something is wrong with our game. Based on the feedbacks we have worked, and this is something similar and then something practical for a lot of indie studios that there are. And after that, we have a community driven, like a Discord server. We send test flights, we send Steam demo builds, so something. So based on all these data, mostly our development process based this. And after that, the localization is once you get the game to a point where we are ready to ship the game, we are ready to tell the market that this game is ready. So what we do is we do localization on a collaboration front. Like say, you have a game and then you want to release the game in Japan.
Right.
So what we do is we talk to different, like if you have a friend or somebody you know from Japan that has an indie studio, that is well and good. else there are international gaming forums, event like this where we can go and network and then we find people. So that's how we take in references for their cultures and their art style, their music and all. And then we try to be honest to our stories, taking some inspiration from their culture itself. So this is kind of a procedure that we follow. Personally, I follow, and then a lot of other friends and other studios, indie studios that also follows this thing.
Yeah, no, go on. Okay, sure. So I'll quickly move to Ashwin here. I think because I think LOCO is definitely seen as the exposure part of this whole economy, because I think you have huge amount of audience which is there, not just as as I said, just not as viewers, but also the creators who are streaming. And as you said, you also host. There are a lot of tournaments going on. There's a lot of other stuff which is going on, and a lot of things over this. But usually right now, how we see the spaces, whenever we talk about a game, right? So usually right now, as it holds, not a lot of creators or not a lot of Indian creators are the faces of, let's just say, global games, or not just global games, and even, to a certain extent, some, Indian games which are delivered for the world. So, which definitely, which is an entry point, entry point barrier when we talk about, how can we actually produce for the world. So, since you are from a, again, from a platform which does exactly this, which provides the exposure, which provides the entry point to end users, and which gives them the platform to, kind of display their skills and their voices. So, are there any, suggestions, or are there any things which you have in mind being in this space for a while?
Sure. Look, I think I agree with Uttam's point of view here, right? That you cannot really force the issue. Right. I think what people often tend to do, and I come from, before the gaming world, I come from the content world, and I saw there as well, a lot of people try to make cinema or television that they wanted to see globally exported. And often in doing that, they change the very core of their storytelling techniques. So what ends up happening is you create something that potentially certainly doesn't appeal to your core TG at the domestic level. And then you don't have a full understanding of the international audience, and so it doesn't really appeal to them either. If you look at the exception that proves the rule, a film like Bahubali, for example, one of the beautiful things about that film was, or RRR is even more recent example, one of the beautiful things about that film was that RRR was so rooted in its Indianness, and it intended to speak to an Indian audience, the largest possible Indian audience it could speak to. In doing that, it remained true to its character, and so that story then transcended. I think I look at gaming much the same way. I think you have to build games that really work for your community, it works for your demographic, and that doesn't mean putting a mythology angle or putting something that's just Indian in context. I mean understanding the consumer at the core, understanding their behavior, their preferences, why do they play, how long do they want to play, what are the cultural aspects of their personality that are involved in their decision to play or not to play, and how do you cater to that? And if you do a good enough job there, you'll see that getting exported. Another example that comes to mind is if you look at the popularity of Korean culture today, right? Whether it's gaming, whether it's music, it's television, cinema, all of these things, it hasn't come from them creating an export quality version of the product, which is different from the domestic quality product. It is the same product. It is just so good for its own domestic market that it transcends those geographical boundaries. I think when we look at the platform, while LOCO does have reach outside of India, there are tournaments we'll do with local tournament organizers. Penta Esports is a good example. These tournaments get watched outside of India as well, but they're not designed to be watched outside of India. They're designed to be consumed by an Indian audience, and because of the quality of content creation or production and the quality of gamesmanship and gameplay, that it ends up transcending. It's the same reason we consume international sports sometimes, right? Because the sport appeals to us at a much baser level. And I think that as a platform that, like you rightly said, has reach and has the ability to create exposure, we are careful to do that as well. We are until you have homegrown stars, you cannot have international stars, right? Until you have homegrown talent that does really well, you can't export them. And we learn lessons from looking at different industries, right? If you look at the journey of cricket, I was born in '84, the year after we won the World Cup for the first time. And while growing up, cricket was a very accepted part of our culture. It wasn't some new industry that was just growing. It had already become pretty mainstream, and then of course I saw it grow exponentially since then. I was very surprised to learn several years into my cricket fanaticism that in the early days of cricket broadcast, the organizer, the BCCI, would pay the broadcaster to carry the feed, right? And that's what you have to do to popularize a sport. That, the broadcast, the exposure, and you need to have a reason to celebrate. You need to have a homegrown stars. And so the World Cup win was a seminal point in that consumer journey. And I think the same way for whether it's hardcore, midcore gaming, esports, you need local stars, you need a win, you need Indian gamers to win at a global competitive stage. That creates a culture. I mean, we're all celebrating Prag's journey at the FIDA Cup, the World Cup. It's because we're seeing a local Indian star do so well in a sport at a global level. That creates passion for the sport. That creates the ability for more content creators to come in, create more interesting content, and then that content exports itself over the course of time. So I wouldn't rush the issue. I would just build on our core strengths, build an ecosystem at the foundation level, and then all of the rest of that growth will happen naturally.
That's I think that makes a lot of sense, and I'm excited to see how you guys translate along this journey. So since I think we are a bit conscious of time, we have already passed that limit. So I've been very selfish, with my curiosity and asking these people questions. So if there are any quick questions which we can take from the audience itself, and then we'll wrap it up. So I think we'll just go ahead. So Mike, can you give him the mic?
Hey, hi. Hi. Hello, everyone. Quick introduction of myself. I am Vijay Singh, and I'm founder at Native. Starting 2019, we developed and bring the in-game advertising technology into the market. And the idea was very simple: is to build an ecosystem where a brand can collaborate and interact with the gamers in a seamless fashion and without being interruptive. And last year, an Australian advertising company acquired Native, and now we being the part of that. So before this, I was discussing with Devroop, and Sumit is a friend. So my question is that, how do you see, the transformation in the game monetization? Because that India and mostly the Southeast Asia is a mobile-heavy, smartphone-heavy, the industry. And in India, 80% and overall 70% of the free-to-play games are preferring the advertising for the sustainability, right? And how do you see that the transformation in the monetization from comparing the traditional way of advertising or the monetization, you can say, to a new era where the brands are interested in participating into the games, right? How do you see that, and where this market is going? So, anyone? Yeah. Sumit, Devroop, or anyone, yeah?
All right, great. See, I think from the perspective of brands' interest into large part of the ecosystem where in-game advertising is concerned, right? Not the competitive games, of course. There is a different end to for brands' perspective to participate into that ecosystem. Those are two different spectrums, right? Largely, how we are looking at it is there has to be strong content IPs built around it, strong proposition so that brands should feel compelling in terms of that it's not a scattered and large diverse market. It is as a whole, it should come together. For example, at Gamestack, we have developed a product proposition for brands in sports. And Ashwin was talking about cricket, right? How can brands participate into large ecosystem of mobile cricket games, which are simulated, of course, not just inside of those cricket games using the game tech, right? Also around those cricket games, which is largely around, let's say, YouTube content feeds are going by the creators while they are streaming, right? And there are competitive matches happening around, say, about example, real cricket or World Cricket Championship. There are solutions that sits around inside our ecosystem in Gamestack that we combine two together. It is a compelling proposition for brands to come and participate and say that, hey, I do live TV, but I also do this. I can do this. I can incrementally reach audiences in a very different environment altogether. So that's like commercialization for not just game publisher, but also the content creators who are creating that content and audiences who are watching it. So that's a different way altogether. So we've seen interest coming onto your exact question. I don't want to anticipate what numbers should we put at it, but this is exponentially growing, of course, right?
I just add on top of what Sumit mentioned. In fact, in the same line we are also discussing before this panel discussion. This is a kind of a new channel, and always there is a resistance, hesitance will be there from the brand side that, okay, this is a proven channel. I might not getting what I'm expecting, but still this is a proven channel, and there is no kind of a fear of failure is associated, because everybody know that this is the conversion rate in general for this particular, be it a print media or is broadcasting or even the digitals in the new way. But as this is a kind of a new way of interaction, always I would say that sometimes the data helps a lot. Like there is a term we use in a kind of a marketing concept, like a market mix models. People use it. I mean, if I put my 1 rupee here in this print and what I'm getting as a part of the revenue in terms of how it is converting. So if we can kind of do certain POCs with a different brands, and then can come up with a kind of a fact or the data-based ROI, that this is the benefits you are going to get. And also probably a couple of things also we need to keep it in mind, like who are my target customers, like a different cohorts of customers that we are targeting. And depending on that, probably that particular consideration we should also have in the model what we are placing, that whom to probably kind of display those kind of ads, who should be my target customers, and I mean depending on the nature of the games, who are playing those games. So if that can be done, come up with a kind of a definite ROI based model, and in that can be presented, then I guess that, I mean, if the ROI is higher, because in the market mix model always these medias, the ROI, everybody know that this is the plateau. But if we able to break that particular plateau here, definitely it would be kind of one of the brands and the different FMCG or those houses can take this into consideration while they are planning their marketing budgets.
Just, I think I'll quickly add on to what both of these gentlemen had said. So, even the company where, the company I founded called Metaphy Labs. So, we are very closely knit with, a lot of brands. We have worked with, I think, the biggest brands you can think of. Cadbury, we recently delivered for Cadbury. We are working with ICC, Thumbs Up. You just name it and we have worked with them. We are working with Adidas and stuff. And something which we saw work for us was initially the kind of entering into the market was difficult because there was no quantitative measure to anything. But through some of our campaigns, like the Cadbury, which we like to talk about, is we saw a bounce rate of as low as 10 to 12%. We saw a CTR of upwards of 30%. And as their own marketing, people kind of call it, right? So I think, it's all about proven concepts and how you actually understand the brand, deliver for the brand, and actually put it all through, as you said, specific quantitative data points to iterate over it. And I think that's because eventually brand just, and before Madhurima kills me, I think we are running out of time, and if there are any questions, I think they would be happy to take it offline.